Hey guys, Lonewolf here, and sorry if my voice sounds kind of strange. I'm actually still recovering from a cold at the moment, so there's not a whole lot I can do about this, but I want to get this video up anyway, because I haven't uploaded much recently, and this is really the reason why. However, at this stage I feel like I can do one without absolutely killing my voice in the process. So anyway, this gameplay sort of came about by accident. I was going to play around in the stealth jets and just practice my dogfighting skills by flying in and out of the buildings and trying to get my pursuers to crash into them. But then this guy shot me out of the air with a mobile anti-aircraft, and rather ungraciously I decided to go and kill him with a shotgun because I know people find this annoying. And this game became more about seeing exactly how well I could do with a close quarters weapon on a map that, although it facilitates close quarters combat in places, does require you to move around intelligently in order to do well. So I thought this would serve as an excellent demonstration of exactly what I mean by good positioning and good movement. I've talked about that before in the past, and I'm hoping to illustrate that with some examples of good movement, some good practices, and also some bad movement in places. This bit here at the beginning, for example, crossing that main road, not necessarily a good thing to do with a shotgun, but I was still a little bit annoyed about having been killed right at the beginning, and I just guess I wasn't paying too much attention at that point. Nonetheless, I did watch my sides and just make sure I knew exactly what was going on. You'll see here I've picked the 44 Magnum as my sidearm. I like to do this a lot with shotguns and PDWs. It just gives me extra versatility to be able to have that long range backup weapon. I'm not amazing with these quote unquote skill cannons, but I do alright, and you'll see me make use of it and get quite a few kills throughout this gameplay. Throughout this engagement, I'm aware of exactly where my nearest cover is. In that situation, it was the boxes on my left and right, as well as the base of the tree if I really needed it. I didn't think I was going to need it, but if I did, I knew where it was, and you should always know where your nearest cover is. Going into this building, I'm right on the edge of where I feel confident with a one-hit kill, also because that wall was slightly obstructing my line of sight. So I decided to serpentine to the left and then back out again in order to get closer and maximize my chances of a one-hit kill. One of the most important factors in good positioning and good movement is taking in as much information from the environment as possible. In that situation, the really important thing for me was seeing that the flag capture bar had paused. Because I can see that my teammates aren't within the capture radius, that tells me there's only one enemy for me to deal with. I need to take him out very quickly before anyone spawns in on him, and as soon as I visually identified him, I could see that he was a recon. This tells me that he's probably using motion detecting gadgets and rules out the possibility of me doubling back before he sees me and going for a flank, because he'll know where I am in all likelihood. It also tells me that he's probably going to be above average intelligence as far as the game is concerned, because he's flanking, because he's trying to capture objectives behind our lines. That's probably going to make him more competent than usual, and I just need to be wary of that, because you need to maintain a consciousness of exactly how good your opponents are. Moving through this garage here, I'm pretty sure there's no one in here because there's nothing shown up on the minimap, but I'm also still staying close to pillars and to cars and just making sure I could take cover if I needed to. Bear in mind that cover does not have to be right next to you, it just has to obstruct the line of sight between you and your enemy. So if there's a car a little way off, but it would block your line of sight with somebody else if you just move to the side, then that's good enough. You'll see I put C4 on the MRAP first rather than shooting at the other people, because I don't want the person in the MRAP to jump out and shoot at me while I take his friends out. I moved up into the building rather than try and take the flag on my own, because I know there's vehicles coming in from their spawn. There's also a tank on the road heading up, and I want to get height advantage and just take cover. I don't feel confident enough to take that flag on my own, and I decided to carve a way through for my teammates who were trying to approach from C. Much better if you can bring your team with you onto a flag. Now, I was killed shortly after this. There's a little bit of a break, so I have trimmed this footage obviously just in the interest of time. I take the jet because I want to clear their jet out of the sky, just do a little bit of damage to their air support, and once I do this I'm going to hop off onto a rooftop. You're going to see plenty of rooftop campers in Dawnbreaker. I don't camp the rooftops, but I am going to take advantage of them here and there. I don't think there's anything wrong with sitting on a rooftop for a short period of time. The only reason this could be a problem is if you stay up there too long and you're not really helping your team. Normally I wouldn't crash a jet like this, but in this situation it's not very useful on Dawnbreaker, and I would rather be in a position where I can take a flag than stay up in the air where I'm not really doing much for my team. Now what I want to do here is get onto B point eventually, but first I need to clear this rooftop. They're a problem for my team on the ground, and they'll be a problem for me too. I really don't want them parachuting on top of me when I'm trying to take B. I just need to be able to deal with one level at a time, so I want to clear them out first. I'm using the Magnum obviously because the shotgun's not going to be very effective from this range. And so once I've killed them, I'm going to jump onto the point, and just as I do I see a recon move to the right of the elevator. Because there's a good chance he's using a sniper rifle, I really don't want to get in his face and risk being no-scoped or quick-scoped or whatever. And so I just move to the left. This is good practice anyway. You want to approach people from the side or somewhere they don't see you coming. I'm using C4 here for the same reason everyone does. It guarantees you a kill. You're not likely to get a hit marker from that distance. And at this point, I've seen that there's a sniper on the lower level who's shooting at my team approaching B, and so I'm just going to jump on top of him and take him out from here. I'm in a position to deal with him, and so I really should. It just makes it a lot easier for my team. And at at this stage I get unlucky enough to have a hit mark with a shotgun, which with a pump gun is a real issue because at that stage you're more or less guaranteed to die unless the enemy is kind of incompetent and doesn't manage to kill you first. I decided I was going to play this game on the ground because the enemy team was relatively aggressive and our team really wasn't without me, and so instead of taking the enemy little bird, I decided what I'd do instead was lay a trap. I then move into this building, and because these two are caught in a choke point, I'm able to land damage on both of them with that first shot, and it just throws off his aim enough to give me the kill. I then move around and I'm going to take cover and just see if the enemy takes my bait. This guy here clearly hasn't because he's trying to shoot the C4 off, so I decide to take him out, and his friendly isn't quite so smart, and I'm able to get a fairly elaborate kill that was very entertaining for me, but I suspect fairly infuriating for him. I just see this enemy move through a doorway. I'm going to slow peek it with my sights up because it gives me the best chance of getting that one hit kill that I'm so reliant on with a shotgun. As I move outside, I'm going to get one kill, but then I'm going to be taken out by somebody halfway up a rooftop. This is the kind of thing that kills me a lot in Battlefield. It doesn't really make me bitter, you just have to kind of accept that this is going to happen in this sort of game. And I really want to highlight this spawn-in screen here, because very often people are tempted to spawn as close to the combat as possible. I try not to do this. It's something I'm very tempted to do, but I try not to because it forces you to take in way more information than you usually can. Your teammate may not have put you in a very good position, you don't know what's going on, and I'd much rather approach it from the back of the map where I'm able to take stock of my situation as I move in. I'm able to control that engagement much better than if I spawn into the front of it. I'm going to take this guy out with the quad bike, not just because it's very funny, but also because I know I don't have any suppressed weapons. I don't want to go for the knife kill because it's going to leave me very exposed, and I need to take him out quietly, so running him over really was the best option in that situation. Just there I took advantage of the 44 Magnum's one-hit headshot potential. I need to kill that guy off the bridge very quickly because from his position, were he to turn and see me running up on him with a shotgun, he's got a pretty nasty head glitch point, and so I need to get him as fast as possible, and the Magnum was the quickest way to do this. I'm trying to capture this position from this side of the concrete barrier, using it for cover. Unfortunately, I'm not able to stay within the capture radius from here, so I move to the other side and realize there's not any cover on the bridge, so I jump down to try and take advantage of my shotgun. I get as close as possible to the bus before I engage this target. I'm then able to duck behind the bus for cover and then re-peek to finish him off. At this stage I can lie down, I've covered my left and right, and then I realise there's a sniper on top of B roof, so I need to get some overhead cover. I've crouched behind the bus to get that, and at this stage I'd normally go and get this target with a shotgun, but because there's that sniper and because my health is low enough, I need to just stay covered because I do not want to get hit with a body shot that would finish me off. And at this point I'd normally move off the flag, but I see a tank here, he's been hit in the tail, so he's not able to move, and I know that's going to have done about 50 damage, so just one C4 will finish him off. I'm now going to shoot at this target from one side of this concrete pillar, and then I can go and re-peek from a different angle. This is the best chance you've got of taking someone on head on. You don't want to re-peek from the same spot because that's where their sights are most likely to be. You go from a different position and you got a much better chance. My plan was that as the enemy team moved into C point to try and retake, I'd move around the bridge and take them from a different angle. Unfortunately, their anti-aircraft was blocking me off, so I had to come back this way, and although I probably wasn't spotted by the anti-aircraft, the teammate who spawned in on me almost certainly was, and even so, going in with the 44 Magnum against that many people was a pretty optimistic thing to do, and my only real option was just to back off, and that's what I should have done. In retrospect, this was pretty poor decision making on my part, and I kind of screwed that one up. In this life I spawned in the same place, but instead of going to C point I went straight to B because it's less well defended, and once we have it we'll be able to attack C from two fronts. I wasn't able to save this tank, which just leaves me and one other friendly. I'm going to stay behind that concrete barrier for a moment, but then I'm going to back off to this statue because it offers greater resistance against explosives. When you retreat like that from one cover to another and you put your back to the enemy so you can sprint, you need to make a mental image of exactly where they are, where the cover is, and where you are. You need to be aware of the extremities of the cover and try and keep yourself behind it at all times. So make a straight line through them, the cover, and you. Although I did kill Trey just there, my teammate was able to stay up long enough that I was able to spawn in, avenge his death, and then I stay on this flag. I'm going to capture it eventually. I kill this one enemy who's stupid enough to just jump in without checking the site first, and then I'm going to be able to run back to C point. Now this enemy on my right, he's going to drop my teammate, and I'm able to just track his position listening to the sound of his suppressed gunshots and his footsteps, so I was able to jump back and forth around that wall and take him out without much difficulty, at which point I'm now going to get killed by the attack chopper. Again, something you can't really do a whole lot about, even if you're in an otherwise good position. It can be kind of frustrating, but that's just sort of life in Battlefield. Now I'm staying up here in this fairly popular position. It's popular because it gives you a pretty good head glitch and you got a bit of a height advantage against anyone on the site. I'm able to drop one enemy from there. I could survey the whole site. I didn't see anyone else. I can then step up to the middle, take this tank out. I'm going to step under the bridge and take cover while I resupply my C4. I always like to have at least 2 ready to go so I can drop any vehicle. And once I've done this, I see an enemy on the minimap. I'm going to step out. I don't really judge correctly exactly how far he was, but nonetheless I was able to finish him off. And here you're going to see me struggle to hit this guy with a magnum. I just missed a couple of times, but I've done considerable damage with 2 shots. I run out of ammo in the magnum, and I decided to try and get him with a shotgun. It's a bit of a risk, but it worked there. And then I move underneath the bridge, and I'm unfortunate enough to come across somebody lying prone with an LMG. Now again, I moved into E point. This is where I spawn a lot of the time on this map. You get a quad bike so you can move into the action reasonably quickly. You don't have to wait too long running, but you're out of the action so you don't need to worry too much about having enemies thrust upon you as you would if you spawned on one of your squad mates. I find it much easier to approach like this. I don't get killed as much like this because the number one time I get killed is just after I spawn because I haven't spawned in a good place. I decided to attack C because last time I was here I made pretty good progress. It doesn't seem particularly well defended, and the few teammates I've got who are trying to play the objective are trying to capture this one, and I figured I had a better chance of getting a flag quickly if I worked with them rather than try and capture something else entirely. I really need to get a flag very soon because although our tickets are more or less even at this point, the enemy team has far more flags, and so the ticket bleed is going to be pretty extreme at this point. I'm just going to smoke off this enemy in the trench because I know I have to stand on the flag here. I know I'm going to be exposed and I really don't want to have to deal with him head glitching from down there. That would be very difficult for me to deal with the shotgun or the magnum. Once I've killed this jumping parachuter there, I'm going to take the flag and then I'm going to try and move back to D point. You'll see as I do, I'm going to stay behind this car here just to block off that line between me and D, and when I see an enemy I'm going to move off to the right, just try and get closer and stay behind that cover there. I'll then remain covered, staying close to this wall and just get as close as possible before they can see me. Hugging the wall like this, staying behind pillars is a very good idea. Seeing shots fired on my left and not wanting to get pinned down behind those pillars, I move quickly to the right, blocking their line of sight. I then move diagonally up the staircase, only exposing myself to one target at once and giving myself enough time to pump the shotgun between kills. I then, once again, having got a hit marker, move behind the container and just change direction very quickly, which makes it very difficult for somebody with an automatic weapon who needs to keep their sights on target the whole time to track me at close range, especially if they're running very high sensitivities. Now, coming inside the building here, I was aware that I wasn't going to be able to deal with that guy behind the metal grate at the end of the room, so I just let my 2 teammates deal with that, and realizing that one of them was down and that we'd lost most of our team support, decided to back off this objective. I'm able to get an easy kill on this tank who clearly isn't paying very much attention, and then I'm going to go around the back of the building and try and help my team out again. At this distance I have to use the magnum, but I want to engage immediately to take the pressure off my squad and try and keep them alive, and I'm pretty confident I can deal with a retaliatory action, which is exactly what I got, because I have this pillar here that's going to allow me to isolate one enemy from the rest by shallow peeking one side, then rotating around to kill another from the other side. Ideally, this is what you want to do with cover all the time. You want to shallow peek one side and just expose yourself to one enemy at once, kill them, then either relocate and deal with another target, or potentially extend your peek as far as is safe and kill another target. Just don't overreach and don't step too far out behind that cover. As I move through this objective, we are now capturing this flag fairly quickly, but I'm pretty confident we're going to lose anyway. Their team's being pretty aggressive and mine really isn't. I see these 2 enemies on the minimap and I'm going to get as close as possible behind cover using these containers, these pillars, and at that point dealing with that head glitcher was pretty easy to do, whereas at range it would have been almost impossible. Here, although I get lots of hit markers and my time to kill is very slow, because I peek that wall in sync with my weapon's rate of fire, he really wasn't that much of an issue overall. I was killed because I was foolish enough to stand exposed to the entire room while I shot. What I should have done is stood further back and to the left and then move gradually to my right as I killed people, and that's exactly what you're going to see me do here. I'm going to control my engagement after I get this hit marker. I'm going to move off to the right and I'm just going to expose myself to one target at once. By this method, I've reduced a group of enemies to just one incoming target at once. At this point, my shotgun is going to win in that 1v1 and I can tackle far more people than if I just decided to engage them all at the same time. I rushed that sniper because most snipers, all but the very best, are really going to struggle with somebody getting that aggressive with them. If they're taking damage, it's going to be very difficult for them to line up a headshot or even a good body shot. I was killed from a position that I knew was about to be a problem. I just wasn't able to get to cover in time, and that pretty much wrapped the game up. Unfortunately, my team lost, but it wasn't at all surprising because they weren't very interested in taking objectives, and ultimately that's what matters in Conquest. But I did pretty well, and I thought this game was pretty interesting and pretty good fun. I hope you thought it was too. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this style of video, and I'll see you next time.